Hi guys, I'm here to show you the basics of Photoshop, and I'm going to show you that by doing a quick picture of something that is quite common seen in forms of media, like movie advertisements, makeup advertisements. It's the front profile, sideways profile combination thing. It's hard to explain. Once I show you what exactly it is, you'll be like, oh, trust me. I'm going to show you how to do this with masks and non-destructive image removal. But first, let's go through the tools and layout, shall we? First of all, you can see I've got a nice clear layout. Don't know if you can see my cursor, but unnamed image here. Down here at the very bottom, you see the animation system here. This is for making GIFs or GIFs, whatever you prefer to call it. Typical layers and object tools that you may or may not be familiar with. We won't go into detail with these because we're just going to show you the basic stuff to get you started. But first of all, let's go through all these generic tools and I'll show you what they do if we need to use them in such tools. So, first of all, we have the Move tool. That's pretty straightforward. It moves an object you have created, and I'll show you an example of that in a second using this Marquee tool, which you can come in several shapes and sizes. So we're just going to use a block, and we're going to use the Bucket tool and select the typical black color, and then deselect it by pressing Ctrl D. If I'm moving too fast for you, just rewind and watch it again. So this is how the Move tool works. You can move the object on that selected layer. Pretty straightforward stuff, right? Alright, I've just pressed Ctrl A to select the entire thing, and I'm deleting that. That is destructive removal, not non-destructive removal. We'll show you destructive removal shortly. Okay, we got the Lasso tool, which comes in strange shapes you can make and fill that in however you want to. But that also comes in the this type of lasso, so you can just literally draw and it will automatically finish it for you. So we've got some sort of whale thing happening here. Not going to bother to fill that in. If you see the tools have a little little arrow in the bottom corner here, that means there's more options to it. Now this is quite a useful tool, the Magic Wand tool. So if I was to make another box real quick, and then deselect, the Magic Wand tool will quickly select the selected color pixel and everything around it. So there you go, straight away it selects the black pixel and all the other black pixels around it. Now if I was to click on the white, it selects the, well, it's not exactly white, the transparent in other words. So I like to hide the background now. So again, let's just destroy that. Actually, it might be a good idea to keep that up in case I need more examples. Alright, the crop tool, we won't be using this at all in this tool, in this tutorial, but I'll show you what exactly it does. It will crop your image to where you want it to. So there, or you can just adjust it. So if I was to crop this, there's the entire image. But that's quite destructive as well, so we won't be using that at all. Now this is the, I always forget the name, the eyedropper tool. So basically, see, my primary color right now is white, and you can select whatever color you have the eyedropper on. See, useful stuff. No need to go through all those tools just yet, because we don't need to get that advanced. Now, if you want to go back to your usual normal colors, black and white, just click on this thing here. This is the healing brush. Spot healing brush to be more exact, but I never use that, so I don't need to go on that. This is your pencil. Your pencil will always give you a sharp, crisp drawing, whereas if you go to the brush version, and probably make it a bit bigger so it's easier to see, you'll get a softer appearance. Of course, you can alter the image, the properties of brush and your pencil, so less opacity. So if I was to turn this down to 40, get 40% strength. But of course you can just keep going over that. So right now that will be at 80%, and then one more time. Well, it's not exactly 100%, but you get the idea. You can just keep going over it until it looks 100%. That's good for actually just adding final touches to an image. Say, for example, you're making a comic book and a specific character you want to blush. You wouldn't just go straight flat out red 100% and put that on there, because that would look, quite wrong. So you can just gently, subtly add the red, which you can't even see, so I'll do it over the black. And yeah, simple as that. So let's set that back to 100. Next is the clone stamp. That is quite actually useful. So what you do is you select Alt, you hold down Alt and select a place you would like to clone. So I'm going to clone this particular part, and now you can see it working already, and it will follow the path and clone exactly what you've drawn from the position you've set it at. Quite useful for texturing, but we won't be using that at all for this tool. Okay, what do we have here? This is the history brush, who cares about that? Now the eraser, this is a destructive removal tool, see, completely deletes your thing. Now if I was to save, close and open it, I can't undo that. That's one of the problems with destructive tools. But it also comes with brush mode, pencil mode or block mode, and opacity is like your brush. Now everyone's favorite, the bucket. Now this selects, it's much like the marquee tool, it'll select a specific color pixel and change that colored pixel to the selected color. But you can also adjust the tolerance. So if I was to set the tolerance to 1, it won't change these colors here. See that? Now, it kind of makes sense. Now if I was to select the tolerance to 100, pretty much every pixel will change. See this? And it can be useful, but in my opinion, I don't like it. Oh, in case you're wondering, Control Z is undo everything you just did, but if you hold Alt, you can undo it in steps. Pretty straightforward. That's it. Aspect 32, the default. The blur tool, pretty straightforward. It blurs the image. That also comes with a sharpen and a smudge tool. So, doesn't work very effectively in some cases, and yeah, smudge. You're running your finger across it. That can be useful, but I prefer just to do it by hand to add that effect. This is the dodge tool. Now the dodge and burn can be useful again. It's hard to tell, but it pretty much makes it lighter and darker. So let's make this a bit bigger so it's easier to see. Well, it's hard to tell with just generic colors, but when it comes to proper imagery like photographs, it works quite well. Pen tool, very much like the typical line tool from Adobe Flash, if you ever use that. So you just got to link it up properly, which I don't seem to be doing well. And yeah, nice and neat. Get rid of this. Get out of here. Now, if I need to explain this to you, you're on the wrong tutorial and you need to go back to school. This is pretty straightforward stuff. Text, yep. And that can also come in different shapes and sizes, and you can change the font. So, yeah, nice and easy. Path selection tool, never used it. We won't need to go into detail for this tutorial. This is to make generic shapes. You can change the colors, etc. Now, this is quite useful. This has the hand tool, which is used for panning when you are actually zoomed in. So I could just grab this, grab this, and pan around. Of course, if you use a tablet, you could do that quite easily with a simple button press on your key. Now, this is probably one of my favorite tools. You can rotate your entire thing and draw lines a lot easier. Because sometimes drawing angles is a pain, but if you find yourself stuck and you can't seem to get it perfectly right the way it was to begin with, you can always just go up here and set that back to 0, which is the default, or you can control it this way, but keys are always much easier to hit. And I just showed you the magnifying tool, so you can zoom in, and if you hold Alt, that's a zoom out, or you can right click, fit on screen, or actual pixels. Alright, and it'll show you the print size, which will pretty much be the same actual pixels unless you've changed your screen resolution. And the default screen resolution for Photoshop is 72. But if you want to print write this down because I often forget it. If you want to print the image at high quality, you set it to 300. Alright, I used to cop that a lot when I was studying. Alright, let's get right down to these effects, shall we? Now let's get rid of all this gobbledygook. Oh, you may have noticed the shape tool has made another layer here. If you want to make it another layer, you do a simple thing, or merge layers, and now that's part of the same layer. The same thing happens to text, so let's get rid of this shit. Now, these two images are what we're going to use. I made this real quick in a program called Poser. It has a special sketch rendering system, nice and simple. And this is the face, and this is the mask. See his hand. Now, first thing we're going to need to do is set up some rulers so we've got it nicely measured. Now, defaultly, your rulers aren't there, just like that. To turn that on, you can press Ctrl R. So let's set up a ruler at the bottom of his chin, at the top of his head, at his ears, which is hard to see on the white image, but everything helps in these things. Okay, and one right in the center, so we'll put the face in the center, properly there. Well, actually the image isn't centered, but we'll sort that out later. Across the eyes, very good. And one more for good luck at the opening of the mouth. Alright, we can hide that and turn this on and see it is not exactly parallel. One of my favorite things to do is keep that layer on, and to adjust things like this, just turn down the opacity of that layer so you can kind of see both, but you can still work on this layer. If that makes sense. Now, all we need to do is adjust this so it is at the right point. So the chin should be there. Nice and neat. And it looks like this image needs to be resized. So to resize, all you need to do is press Ctrl T, and that will give you a free resize. But there are different types of resizes you can do. You can go to Edit, Transform. You can scale, rotate, skew, distort. I don't need to read it all to you. So let's go ahead and do that. I often use the keyboard here to make adjustments because it moves it pixel by pixel, just a bit more precise. Okay, he needs to be a little bit smaller. The tip of the head is reaching, but the chin is overextended. So let's move that up a little bit, and that looks pretty good. A little bit lower, and make it a little bit bigger. Now, normally this will add some sort of a negative effect to your image. It'll actually add a blur to the pixels to make it look smoother, so it doesn't look so pixelated when you distort it. So here you go. You see it sharpen. You may not be able to see the detail, but you will see it sharpen around the edges. So don't be worried when you're resizing that it's going to make it look distorted. Unless you're doing something silly like resizing a sprite, don't expect a really masterpiece. So let's move this so the face is in the center. There we go. Try not to lose your settings here. So the tip of the nose is touching the tip of the nose. Right? You might be able to know what I'm doing by now, but if not, keep following. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to marquee this part and destructively remove this part. Okay? Now, if it hasn't gotten through to you yet, destructive means, consider it, you can't undo it if you save and look. Okay? Now, right now, I am going to marquee the white part, which probably could use a bit of a cleanup, as you can see, as being a bit pixelated. So I'm just going to grab the blur tool and at least give it a quick smooth, just making that a little bit neater. There we go. Pretty straightforward. Now, a quick tip is if you don't want to select by this tool, you can just hold Control and click on the layer, and that'll select everything within every object within the layer, even the ones that are not shown in the image, as you can see. All right. Now, if I remember correctly, the masking tool should be just here. Add layer mask. That's right. So we click on that, and there you go. Everything in the black part of the layer mask becomes invisible. Okay? But right now the white part is where the face is. So what we want to do is pretty much select everything on that layer and press Ctrl I. That inverts the colors. So the invert of white is black and the invert of black is white. So the second I invert, nothing happens. How amazing. But it was right the first time. My apologies. There we go. So everything in the black becomes invisible on this layer, while everything on the white is not invisible. The reason you can't see it is because this particular mask is still on. There you go. How foolish of me, especially to do during a tutorial. But mistakes also help you show that it's authentic. Rightio, and you may have seen this kind of effect multiple times on different forms of media. Now, if you leave the link on, it'll move completely with it. Now, if you remove the link, you can select a particular one. So I can move that specifically, or I can move this specifically. You see? Nice and neat. Now, what we want to do is just quickly remove all this stuff. Maybe even remove the chin. But I'm actually quite fond of that, so let's get rid of these rulers. So you just drag these out of the way. Of course, when it comes to designing, it's not what you're fond of, it's what the client is fond of. Thankfully, I do not have a client, so I have complete freedom here. So let's make this a tad bit more interesting to look at. Let's add a background. That's actually worth looking at. And the quickest fancy background, in my opinion, is to grab yourself some color and slap on just a layer of something and go to Filter, Render, and Fibers. It appears my program has jammed. Great. There we go. It didn't. Lucky me. And you can fidget with this and do what you like to it, but you can go straight ahead and do something like that. And of course, you can mix it up with different colors. So let's change this to green color. And to redo the filter you had last time, just press Ctrl F. As I've done it for you. Alright, and yeah, you can just do all sorts of things. You can also, if I was to grab another layer here and merge layers, it becomes a single object. But of course, that is destructive. So what we want to do is, actually, I'll just do this again. This is a little trick I picked up. Push Control A, copy, and then undo the merge. And this way, I still have the flattened version as well as the undestructive version in case I change my mind. So the reason I did that is to add a special effect. So you can double click. Don't double click the name part. That'll just allow you. Oh, it works now. How about that? Guess I'm old. You can add a stroke. So it adds a outline to the image, and you can adjust the properties. So a fat one, thin one. You can also change the effects of the stroke, so it's inside or in the center, but of course outside, and you can change your blend mode, which is very similar to the effects you can have with layers. So dissolve. That doesn't seem to make any difference because I haven't changed the opacity. Look at that, dissolve. Now if I change the dissolve back to normal, it will just be a typical opacity change. And darken, but all those stuff is not very useful. In fact, I don't even like the stroke. Yeah, you can add bevel, make it stick out a little bit. Change the depth. Yeah, makes it look a little 3D. You can also change the size of the depth of the bevel. Right. Chisel. Yeah. Some things aren't even worth adding, but in some cases they're useful. In this case, I'm going to add a drop shadow. Now that adds a drop shadow for the object. So I'm just going to move the drop shadow, so just down here. And you can make it a bit of a spread. Nice, yeah. And make it even bigger. Well, there you go. Now if you change the opacity, you'll be 100% black. No, we don't want